I request CA S. Venkataramani sir to take over the stage.
Introduction done. Rajesh closed with fees. I was very happy that he was going to deal with fees and how chartered accountants should be charging fees. But let me tell you, on a lighter note, by lighter note, on a very serious note, I wish the president were here.
Sir, I left fees for you, sir. Professional fee part to you.
I wish the president were here. Fee is a matter of discipline. Without fees, nothing works. So we have to be very clear what we charge, how we charge, when we charge, how much we charge, why we charge. If we don't have that discipline, we can't pay our staff, we will not be able to run our offices, we will not be able to buy our books, we will not be able to upskill ourselves. Therefore, kindly treat fee as a matter of discipline. Having said that, yesterday, Anchal madam from Amritsar and came and filed the first appeal. First appeal is over. Pleading also over. If first appeal was successful, there was no requirement of a session today. Not required. So we know the fate of first appeals. We know what happens to first appeal. Rajesh, poor Rajesh labored for the last 45 minutes or so. He has now filed the appeal before the tribunal. Appeal filed. Next, what to do? What to do next is the question. Let me set this in context. We have roughly about 40,000 CS in Karnataka, a little more, if somebody can help me with the number, maybe around 40,000 CS in Karnataka. How many of them come to the tribunal? How many of them? Whether it is Sestat, Excise, Customs, VAT or even GST. We have only a handful. So what is the difficulty? Why are we not getting to the tribunal? Do we think that there is no space there? Or do we think that we are not good enough to be there? Or do we think that the client believes that the lawyer is a better person to argue the case and chartered accountants are not? I think this is where we will have to set the tempo, template, knowledge base and our acumen in place. Consider this. Estimates tell us that when the tribunal is set up probably 3 months from now, I expect the arguments to commence sometime during February, worst case March. There is likely to be about 15,000 to 18,000 appeals that are likely to be filed in Bangalore alone, which has 2 benches. At what point in time the tribunal will hear this? It will become one more Sestat tribunal. I wish some Sestat authorities were here. It will become one more Sestat. By the time these 18,000 appeals are heard, all time barring cases of 21, 22 and 2020, 2021 is getting time barred, right? They will all pile up in the tribunal again. Now, how does the tribunal plan to handle all of this? Let us see how we go along with this. Now, when we are talking of roughly 15 to 18,000 appeals that are likely to be filed, even if I assume that there will be a single taxpayer who will file 2 or 3 appeals for 2 or 3 years in one go and therefore it is one client, we will still have about 4,500 to 5,000 appeals that will get filed in Karnataka. Now, if we are talking 4,500 to 5,000 appeals, I don't think there are enough CAs here who will be able to handle 4,500 to 5,000 appeals in the tribunal unless we upskill, we upgrade, we move on to the next level of practice and pleadings. If we don't get there, I don't think we are going to do it in the next stage of the reforms. It's not going to happen. So I think we need to upskill, upgrade, etc. Having said that, we will now start with the first of the slides. There can be no pleading without Nani Palkhiwal. There can be no student of pleading if you have not heard or read something about Nani Palkiwala. Our beloved Nani actually set the bar so high on pleadings that I think it will take generations for us to get there. Generations for us to get there. There are enough lawyers who are brilliant, who are outstanding, but Nani Palkiwala stood out there as a beacon. There are two cases. There are hundreds of cases where Nani fought. But I've just listed out two cases here. All students of law who want to plead, please read these two cases. One, the Keshavananda Bharati's case, and two, the Session-1's case. The first one related to the fabric of the constitution that cannot be altered. It was the single largest bench that the Supreme Court constituted. It was a 13-member constitutional bench. The decree went 7 versus 6. And Nani succeeded. The second one he lost. So I've taken one where Nani succeeded, one where Nani lost. Nani lost the Seshamma's case where it was the right of the Archakas, where the Tamil Nadu government amended the provisions of the statute to say that the legislature is supreme. So Article 25 and 26 in that case was upheld. So I want you to read how Nani built up his case, and that is how pleadings commence. Next. Be there. Advocacy and pleadings. Nothing new to chartered accountants. Nothing new to chartered accountants. You go, you appear before an assessing authority, it is a pleading. You go appear before an inspector and plead, it is a pleading. You go and appear before a first division assistant and plead your case, is still a pleading. So there is some kind of a pleading that takes place on a step-to-step basis. But advocacy is a gift. If you don't have that gift, you need to build that gift. You need to build upon it. How do you build upon that gift? How do you train yourself to be a good leader or a brilliant leader? How do you call yourself a wonderful advocate or a wonderful chartered accountant who will be able to represent your client before the respective authorities? So you first have to read. If you don't read, you can't write. If you can't write, you can't speak. You will not be able to speak. So you have to read, write, speak, then plead. Read, write, speak, and plead. If it is not in this order, it is very hard to plead. Now, we'll move to the next slide. What are the traits of pleading? Now, appeal filed. Rajesh has already filed appeal before the tribunal. Now you have to commence your pleadings. Srinivasan, who is sitting here, first question he has already asked me. Sir, what pleading you are talking, sir? The cost list has 80 listings and mine is 71st. Will I even reach today? He has already asked me that question. So will I reach today? Is the first question. But this is the practical difficulty of pleading. So you have to wait. There can be 73 adjournments, 74th one can be heard, 75th one can be heard, 76th one will perhaps come at 1 a.m. You would have gone to the court at 10 o'clock before the tribunal, wait till 1 o'clock when your interest for hearing is gone, but you still continue to plead for your client. This is the reality of life. We need to face this. We need to learn to plead. We can't lose our interest, but this is the reality. The moment you enter the court and stand up before the tribunal, we need to learn some practical aspects of how life goes on. Some of the chartered accountants here who appeared before the tribunal, I'm sure would have gone through this experience. The court will tell you, because he has already granted 50 adjournments for 1 hour. So court will tell you, you look at his time and he has to break for lunch at 1 o'clock. So he will tell you, your facts and grounds are here. Do you have anything more to argue? You are deflated at that point. Because you have come prepared. You have 5 pages of notes. You have made 40 pages of facts, 50 pages of 50 grounds of appeal. Not in the narrative. So you would have built up case laws. You would have bought 4 box files. There will be 2 bags lying there. Two assistants will be carrying that with case laws, books, act, old act, because tribunal's hearing will come after some 10 years. So you will have the publication, old publication, new publication, amendment, regulation, circular, clarification, flyer, notes. Rajesh has finished everything. Now all of this you will be carrying 2 to 3, 3, 4 more copies. Court will tell you in one sentence. Anything more than facts and grounds, finished. Next what? Next what? If you stand before the tribunal, there are two things you can say. My lord, nothing more. Over, case is over. You don't know which way the case is going to go. The client will ask you, "Yen sir, aita case ho? Case agoytu, result gottilla." So you have to wait. So you don't know what will happen. And most of the cases, you know what will be the end result. Most of the cases, you will know what will be the end result. This is one way of handling it. We will see how to handle these cases. Two, court will tell you, covered matter. You have anything more? You don't know which matter is covered. You don't know. You will have 5 grounds of appeal. Which grounds of appeal? You will have 5 issues. Which issue is covered? You have no idea. If you are not prepared, you don't know which one is covered. You must have the courage of conviction to stand up and ask, "My lord, which is this covered matter you are talking of? Because there is no matter that is covered here. I need to articulate before you." Will you have the courage of conviction to tell the tribunal, stand up there and tell that this is the position? In one of the iconic companies of Bangalore, before the Honorable High Court 7 years back, why 7 years? About 9 years back, the Honorable High Court said, you pay 100 crores and come here in an indirect tax matter. The court said, you have 12,000 crores in fixed deposit. Sky will not fall down if you pay 100 crores and come before the High Court. And they kind of threw the file. Justice Sabibullah Badshah stood up and said, "My lord, whether I pay 100 or don't pay anything, respect that file. First hear me out before you talk. Will you have the courage of conviction to stand up before that bench and say, hear me before you say whether the matter is covered or not?" How can matters be covered? Matters may be similar, but matters will not be the same. They will not be the same. They can be similar, but they will not be the same. How well you are able to distinguish in that limited time before the bench really matters. This is art of pleading. There are enough judges. There are enough members in the tribunal who will tell you, you have 3 minutes, conclude. This is how the bench tells you. You have 3 to 5 minutes, finish your case. You would have prepared for 1 week, you would have told your client it will take 2 hours, but the bench will give you 3 minutes and your client will be sitting there. You will be sitting there because you would have taken him also. Hey, tribunal argument, come. So the client also will be sitting there and the bench will give you 3 minutes to tell you, conclude your arguments in 3 minutes. You don't know which ground to take, which ground to start, which ground to drop, which ground to concede, which ground to argue, what to argue, how to commence, how to finish. You will have no idea of how to go about this until and unless you read, you write, you speak, you talk to people, you attend moot courts, you hear arguments, go to benches and see how it works, sit there, spend your time, learn how to articulate. First is learning how to articulate. If you are unable to articulate, what is articulation? Articulation is nothing but an art of communication. If you are not able to communicate, you will not be able to plead. If you are not able to plead, you are not doing justice to your client. If you are not doing justice to your client, forget your client. You are setting precedents. Somebody else can lose another issue. On a similar matter, somebody else will lose because you are setting the precedent on that issue. So we shouldn't frustrate the law. We shouldn't frustrate somebody else's litigation point. We should not frustrate an issue that comes up before the court. We have to be awfully, extremely careful when we go for our pleadings. Second point. When you speak, it must be natural. It must be natural. If you are not speaking naturally, there is a fear factor. There is a fear factor. If somebody has taught you, Venkat, you go, you take this point first, this point second, this point third, this point fourth. If the judge suddenly starts saying point number 4, which he will bring up before you, Venkat, you have any point to talk about this, Mr. Counsel, let me know. Then your first 3 are gone. Your first 3 are gone. So you have to be extremely careful and you have to be natural in your speaking. You will have to tell the court, my lord, I'm coming to point number 3, but let me commence. So he will give you 1 minute. In that 1 minute, you have to make him concentrate on what you are telling, what you are arguing, how you are pleading. You have to make him understand. You have to tell competition. You have to tell how you are going to take this forward. Then probably he will give you a couple of minutes more. There must be fluency. There must be clarity of thought. Particularly for CS, there must be clarity of thought. In your office, when you sit down with your articled assistant, you have such a loud mouth. When you go before the tribunal, you will be unable to open your mouth. This is the reality. If there is an article clerk, you know more than him or her. Therefore, you put them down. Therefore, you tell them you don't know anything. Therefore, you tell them you have to read. Therefore, you shout at them. You give them all kinds of dressing downs. But when you come to the tribunal, your hands are tied up, your mouth is locked. There is no courage, no conviction, only fear. When you fear, I have seen counsels holding papers in their hands, shivering, not knowing what to do. This is the reality. And when on the other side, you have a bench which is brilliant, you don't know what to do, you are afraid, you will try to take adjournments. Adjournments will be over. Enough adjournments will be over. Don't take Shankar's story. Shankar will take adjournment for 10 years and he will still succeed because on threshold limits, the government will come up with a circular and say beyond 50 lakhs there is no appeal. So he will win. But is taking an adjournment a solution to pleading? I don't think so. I don't think so. If you have to be an outstanding pleader, then I think you will have to be prepared. You need to talk, you need to be fluent, you need to be articulate, you need to communicate well, etc. Before you go to the step onto the doors of the tribunal, you must know where are you headed? Where are you headed? What do you want out of this appeal that is filed before the tribunal? You want a remand, you want a de novo order, you want it to be set aside, you want it to be quashed, you want some other order which has been incorrectly pronounced, with great respect to the courts. I hope I am not hauled up for contempt. With great respect to the court, distinguish that vis-a-vis your case, distinguish that vis-a-vis your case, and then continue to proceed further. To succeed, there are 2 virtues. I recognize the presence of our Honorable Health Minister, Shri Gundurav ji. So, to succeed, you need to have 2 virtues. One is industry, 2 is integrity. Without industry and without integrity, I don't think we are proceeding any further. So Palkiwala once said, industry without intellect and intellect enough to cover up for your industry is good enough for a great leader. Next. When chartered accountants want Honorable Minister, I have just started my session. You will have to bear with me for 20 to 25 minutes. Would that be too much? Alternatively, I don't know if the organizers can finish with that session. I'll continue? No, I don't know if he has engaged. I'll continue. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. There must be a mindset shift in chartered accountants if you have to become a pleader. Your mindset has to first change from being a return preparer to 99C to 2A, 3B, 11C, etc. Call it by whatever name. Pre-SCN, INS 01, SCN 01, 1A, all this. Please get out of all this. Get out of all this. No tribunal is going to listen to you about any of these things. They will say, okay, we are aware of all of this. Now come to the point. What is your argument? How are you going to take this forward? So there must be a mindset shift from practice to pleading. Your practice is over. Your practice is over with appearing before the adjudicating authority. Therefore, you now have to shift to plead. And when you plead, get over the basics. If you are stuck with the basics, you are never going to be an awesome pleader. You are not going to. You need to build courtroom discipline and courtroom temperament. Courtroom discipline and courtroom temperament cannot be taught. It must be observed. Courtroom discipline and courtroom temperament is not a classroom session. It is not a classroom session. It depends from judge to judge, member to member, DR to member, pleader to DR. So it differs. The temperament varies. For example, Rajesh may have a mild temperament. I am a very aggressive person. So it's very hard for someone to plead before me. But then you have no choice. You have to plead before me. I will tell you, okay, sit down, I am aware of what you are talking. Right? So you will have to learn to plead. So don't be subservient. Don't be subservient. Don't lose your calm. Don't lose your frustration. Your mental readiness is absolutely crucial. If you are not ready at that point or expect that this is going to come, you will be flustered. You will not be able to argue. You won't be able to argue. So you have to be clear in your thought. What are your issues that you will have to take? Somebody will try to mislead you. The court itself will try to mislead you. The court itself will tell you, no, you filed this return, that. Don't get flustered. You might have actually not done that. You may have done it differently for different reasons. You shouldn't get flustered. If you take that path, you have lost your ground for pleading. You lost because you have taken that direction. You lost crucial timelines. Therefore, you will not be able to travel back. Confidence is not personality. You may have money, you may have fantastic cars, you may live in great houses. But when you come to the courtroom, remember, you are a pleader. You are a pleader. You are a pleader for your client. You are pleading his case. All of this takes a backseat. It takes a backseat. However strong you are, you can tell your client, if I lose this case, I will return the fee, but that is not the point. The point is in succeeding when you plead. So therefore, there has to be a change. You have to know your file better than the bench. You have to know it better than the bench. You have to know your file, not just your file, you have to know your competition. Because the bench sitting there will tell you, no, XYZ company is doing like this. Why are you doing like this? My lord, XYZ is doing that for some other reason, or A reason, or B reason, but I am doing this for HIJ reason. So you will have to be very clear about what your competition is doing. So you need to know your client, you need to know your competition. Your client will tell you, what are you arguing here? My case is going out of hand. Last time I heard you, I don't think you have done a good job. You have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for that and tell them nothing wrong will happen. You will have to sometimes deal with questions from the bench. And these questions are very awkward questions. The awkward questions, bench will ask you very awkward questions. Bench will tell you, why were you silent when you went before the assing authority? You should tell him, the bench, my lord, this issue never came up. It is coming up for the first time before you. You must have the courage of conviction to tell that bench standing there on your feet in that 10 seconds. If you don't tell, notes will get onto the note sheet of the bench. Be very clear, you won't have time. Court may start with technical questions. Court will ask for technical questions. If you are not aware of the punctuation mark and or R, which became a very big issue in 17.5 and 17.6. If you are not aware of under R, punctuation, matters of jurisprudence, if you haven't read Kanga and Palkiwala, if you haven't read G.P. Singh, if you don't know Maxwell's law of interpretations, it is very hard to handle technical questions that will come. I recognize the president, I recognize the beloved President Nandaji. On behalf of the Chartered Accountants, I extend a warm welcome to you while I am speaking. Thank you, Mr. President, for being here. I'll try and see how quickly I can finish. Next, we'll go to the next slide. Some of the important hallmarks of advocacy. Some of the hallmarks of advocacy is you have to espouse the thought. What is that thought? That thought is you will have to look at the point of law Be on facts. Be on facts. Don't deviate from facts. Don't clutter with judgments. Judgments only cement or uncement your decision making. They cement or uncement your decision making. Be on facts. Don't confuse the bench. If you confuse the bench, they will apply some other law to it and tell you your case is already lost before you have commenced pleading. So don't clutter the bench with judicial pronouncement. Judicial pronouncement comes after you lay down the facts, lay down the point of law, come to your conclusion, then you say support is drawn from this judgment or another judgment. Till then, don't confuse, don't clutter. Court will be unwilling to listen because you have very, very limited time insofar as the tribunal is concerned. Preempt key arguments. Preempt key arguments. You address that issue now. The court will tell you, my lord, if I am entitled to ITC, the next question will be, have you applied Rule 42 for pro rata, input tax restriction? So preempt that question. Court should know that this man is aware of the law. They will be very careful. If you tell the court, my lord, it is an and not an or, that is there in the section, court will be careful. They are not going to preempt you from when you are talking. If they know that you don't know the law, if they know that you don't know the circular, if they know that you have not gone through the press release or the flyer or the clarification or the notification, court will override you in 1 minute. And that reputation will stand so long as that bench is there. So you will have to be absolutely clear at what point in time you will have to address these issues. Never underestimate the DR. Never underestimate the DR. The DR will have better control over the departmental records. He has 3 or 4 stages where he would have got written notes from, and he will be depending on that. You are one versus his support system entire down the chain. So you have to be very careful. You have to be aware of what records are there in the file. If you don't have those records, apply for those records, get copies of that, prepare over it, and then go and plead. You will have a better chance to succeed. Next. Yes. Next. You have to start with facts. Without narrating the facts, don't go to the law. You are putting the cart before the horse. You are not going to succeed. If you go with law and say, I am entitled to input tax credit, court will not know what it is, why you are asking for input tax credit. It won't know. So you have to set out the facts, set out the law, and then come out and say, why don't mix up fact and law. If you mix up fact and law, court will know in 5 minutes that you have lost your case. Then you have to know when to pause. When the 2 members are talking to each other, they are making notes, they are talking to the DR, they are not doing anything but one of the members is looking at his mobile. When one of the members is kind of closing his eyes, natural, very natural, he will close his eyes when you are arguing. I think you have to pause. You will have to draw his attention and say, my lord, hear me out. So he will hear you. But he may not concentrate. So you have to get his concentration back on track. You have to get his concentration back on track. So that's when you should know when to pause. When you are making a very key argument on a particular section, word, punctuation, comma, full stop, flyer, clarification, notification, etc., pause. Pause. Repeat if required, so that they concentrate and ask you one question to say why this circular and why not that press release. So you will have to be very careful when you will have to make the argument. You have to know when you should concede. When you should concede. I don't know if any of you have seen arguments when I go put, I'll say, my lord, ground number 6 I concede, let's not waste time, but we will take ground number 4. That will be some 40,000 rupees and it will be a one-time affair where your client can afford. Better give up that ground and fight something else. Otherwise, the court and the DR will continuously be spending time on this 40,000 rupees and their 50 lakh issue will go off. So you need to know at what point in time you need to concede. When you are weak, you need to say, I'll get back and file written submissions. You have some time to get back to it. So you should know when to take time. You should know when to take time. And you should know when and how to close your arguments. When the bench knows it is already finished, they will say, we are aware, we are done with this, etc. I think you need to close your arguments. Next. President, sir, 10 minutes. I will close in 10 minutes. I will close. I promised the minister I'll close in 25. I will. Next. Mastering the court craft. You have to respect hierarchy. You like the bench or you don't like the bench. You have to respect that hierarchy. Because members of the bench would have risen from the ranks. I think the president will agree with me. There are many members of our profession who have risen through the ranks and who have become members of the profession. So he might have been your friend some time back, but when he sits on the bench, he needs to be respected. You have to respect that hierarchy. Don't interrupt the bench. This is a discipline. Don't interrupt the bench. You can always get a lead up. So you don't interrupt. Let them talk. Let them do what they want. Let the court tell what you want. You can always say, my lord, your understanding of this is slightly different because on facts, my client's business is this. Therefore, your mindset saying that I'm not entitled to input tax credit on this product is different because this product itself is different from what is in your mind. Therefore, don't interrupt the court. You have to address the issue, but don't drag. Don't drag. You're not succeeding by dragging. There's nothing that is going to happen by dragging. Enter the courtroom with preparation and not with anxiety. You will have a lot of anxiety if you're not well prepared. When you're prepared, there will be zero anxiety because you know the case, you know you will succeed, you're positive, you're confident, you know the circular is in your favor, you know the earlier case laws are in your favor, you know that the advance ruling is in your favor, I don't know what not. But there can be that one instance. Even then, I think it was Rajesh, or I don't know, somebody, not Rajesh, maybe somebody else, who lost a simple C-form case before the tribunal, simply because the C-form was not dated. Now, people went with positive energy, thinking that they will win, but they lost. So you be very careful when you enter the courtroom. Greet your colleagues. Avoid reading. Don't waste the court's time. Don't waste. Don't read. Court knows. It will go back and read. Because the case law and head notes will be 20 pages. If you go on reading, remember the injustice you are doing to the court's time and justice to the subsequent assessee who is on the cost list. Don't do that. Court will go back and read. If you want to draw attention of the court to a particular line in a paragraph, then you draw the attention of the court. But if you are drawing the attention of the court, you need to be thorough with your paper book. You need to say, my lord, page 63, para 4, fourth line, this is what it says. So don't go and start searching for don't waste the court's time. Next, avoid reading. Then, admit if you don't know. Admit if you don't know. If you don't know, because the court will tell you, what is its impact on income tax? Say, I don't know. No harm in saying I don't know. No harm. Because the moment you try to do something and the bench knows a little more income tax than what you know, remember, you lost the trust of that bench, not just for this case. Till such time that bench is going to hold post, you are finished. You are not going to succeed. In a single case, bench will tell you this man is useless. Next, if you are interrupted by your bench, adjust your flow. Just adjust your flow. Bench will interrupt you. Adjust your flow. You tell the bench, you calm down, you take your 10 seconds, you take your 10 seconds more, have a deep breath, then commence your arguments. Nothing will go wrong, they will wait. Listen carefully to the bench question. Don't try to say, my lord, I have understood, I will answer you. He may actually be favoring you by asking a wrong question. His question could be wrong. He could be guiding you in a direction to say, you take this line, I will probably allow this appeal. So you learn how to pause before commence answering. Listen absolutely carefully. If you want to neutralize the judge, don't antagonize. You don't say, my lord, the learned departmental representative has not applied his mind. How do you know he has not applied his mind? He has applied his mind and come up with this solution. You are nobody to tell him he has not applied his mind. In your mind, you can think he has not applied his mind, but he would have actually applied his mind and this is the best he can come up with. Therefore, don't neutralize it by saying, my lord, it is without the application of mind. You will reach that stage probably after 1,000 hearings. But till such time, I think you cannot antagonize the court. You cannot antagonize the department representative. Next. Never confront. Never confront. Go with the bench, but deviate at one point in time. If you tell the bench, my lord, next slide. When you tell the bench that, my lord, your understanding is wrong, finished, bench will feel terribly offended. Don't say, my lord, your understanding is fine, but my case is this. No harm in putting it completely differently. That's why you have to be articulate, your communication has to be effective, you have to you have to talk without pausing, and you will have to take the bench in that very limited time that you will have. Don't label a bench. It will ruin your career and your credibility. I have heard many of them say, this is a revenue bench. There is nothing called revenue bench or a non-revenue bench. It is how well you are able to carry the mindset of the judiciary or the bench that is there. Well, there may be a member who might have dismissed 100 appeals, but yours could be the first appeal that he will allow. Yours could be the first appeal. So don't get carried away by saying, this bench is not going to give me relief. Don't come with that mindset, which means you are not confident of your case. You are not confident of your case. In which case, you have to reframe the narrative. Focus on jurisprudence. Don't go on emotion. When you go on emotion to say, my lord, my client will close down his business, state will lose so much revenue, so many people will lose employment, you are going on emotion, you are not going on law. So you need to go on law. Emotion comes later. Government will take care of it. You don't need to worry about it. Government will amend the law if it is required. Let's say a large industry is going to lose because of a point in law. Government will take care of that point of law. We don't need to worry about it. But so long as you are concerned, I think you need to worried about that point of law, and don't get carried away by emotion. Don't get carried away by the quantum in dispute. Don't say, sir, I have a 150 crore appeal. Why are you worried about 150 crores? You have to be worried about the point of law. Whether it is 150 crores or 1,500 crores, if a law is to be read in one particular manner, it has to be read in that particular manner. Somebody else will read it differently. Does not mean that that interpretation is not possible. It's perfectly possible. Please go ahead. Seek leave to file written submissions whenever you think your time is running short. Please seek time. If you think you have lost your case, silently prepare for the next level. Somewhere down the line, you will realize, I think this case is going out of control. It's going out of control. No problem. Prepare yourself silently for the next appeal. Next. My lord, I have only one more slide, I'll finish. How to handle high pitch orders. I think all of us are used to high pitch orders. 100 crore, 200 crore, 10 crore, 20 crore, 40 crore, 50 crore. It's become a routine. Don't get worried about high pitch orders. Sky will not fall down. Nothing will happen. The country's largest tax notice of 32,000 crores came to be issued. Nothing happened. Sky did not fall down. It got resolved. So don't worry about it. Right? All this is a part of life. You will have to learn to deal with it. Now when it is high pitch, your preparation should be stronger. It cannot be mechanical. You may need a second opinion. You may not be able to handle, you may have to hire someone senior to you. Don't get flustered. Prepare. If you have a solid issue, I think you will succeed. It is just that you might not have succeeded in the first appeal, probably in the second appeal. If not in the second, probably before the High Court. You will succeed. Facts, grounds become very crucial, critical. Rajesh took you through. You cannot take additional grounds as you wish before the tribunal. It is not possible. So be careful when you do your drafting and filing. Drafting and filing becomes the crucial part of pleading before the tribunal. When it's a high pitch order, use tables, use worksheets, use Excel sheets to say why that order is high pitch. I think we will have to take it there. Then you need to control the narrative. Don't be controlled by the bench or the DR. In the tribunal, you need to control that narrative. If you can't control that narrative, then you can't be a good pleader. How do you control? You control the bench by controlling the law. You control the bench by controlling the circular. You control the bench by controlling the business. You control the bench by controlling competition. You control the bench by setting precedent. You control the bench by the way in which you plead or talk, or the way in which you carry yourself through before the bench. That's how you control the narrative. Sometimes when you have high pitch orders, you need to propose the thing wrong in taking grounds which are without prejudice. You can say without prejudice, my lord, send it back de novo for a de novo order.
Send it back to the AO for a fresh look at the documents which were there, which have not been given adequate attention to. Absolutely no, I'm finished, madam. 1 minute, I don't need this. Okay, sorry about that. So, I don't know what was I saying? Next, last slide. So I've told you, next slide, what will happen if you lose a case, file written submissions, etc. Don't show panic in the court. If you show panic in the court, you are finished. One, your client will lose respect for you. Your colleagues who are sitting there beside you will have zero respect for you. The bench will have zero respect. Worst of all, the departmental representative will go and tell all his colleagues and friends in the department that this man is useless. So don't show panic. You have to leave the courtroom with dignity and not drama. Don't dramatize things. Next. Some crucial don'ts before I close. Don't irritate the court. If you think the court is getting irritated, not because of you, but because of someone else, silently take time and come out. Silently take time and come out. The court will get better next week. Do not file frivolous petitions. If you file frivolous petitions, be careful. You can be hauled up for cause or you can be hauled up for contempt. Be extremely careful when you go to the tribunal. Do not argue beyond a point. Beyond a point. You will know that this is the end of it. Do not lie. If you lie, your next year is in difficulty. Be careful. This year you may get relief. Next year the facts will become different because the tribunal would have allowed this appeal and the facts will be different in the subsequent year. Business will continue to remain the same. Do not use your phones. Do not use your phone. Do not over-promise your client. Don't tell your client 100% we will succeed. This is exactly what happens when we tell. We'll tell our client we'll win it. But first day of the argument we know we have lost. Then you don't know what to do. You have lost your file and you have lost your client. Both. Next. Don't take criticism personally. Last point. I think with this slide I will close. Nani Palkiwala. In fact, this was Justice V.C. Daga who talked about Nani. So this is something which every chartered accountant who is pleading should know. There will be one day in your life, there will be one day in your life when you will lose a case. When you will lose your case. But you do ensure that you don't lose your client. Somehow hold on. If you can't hold on, you can't hold on, but try to hold on. There will be some day when you will lose your client and you will lose the case. Both will happen. Appeal will get dismissed. Client is also gone. But so conduct yourself that you don't lose the court. You can always tell the judge, after the order is pronounced, my lord, I'm obliged. I'm happy to take this order. Nothing wrong with it. Next time we'll say, I dismissed and he's telling happy, so allow this appeal. So, be happy to take that appeal order which is dismissed. Someday, you will lose your client, you will lose your case, you will lose your client, but you will also lose your court. Judge will tell you, you are one of the worst pleaders. He will tell you openly. But so conduct yourself that you don't lose your conscience. This is what Nani taught us when he fought the Keshavananda Bharati's case. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. In this little time that was available to me, I thought, let me see how I can make the pleaders. One word or a couple of words about our Honorable Minister and about our President before I close. First, of our President. I don't know if my President remembers sometime during 2016, 2017. Mr. President, you were instrumental in getting us that appointment with the Finance Ministry when we wrote that background material on GST. I think he should take the credit as a Central Council member. It was the single largest selling publication. It sold over 2 lakh copies. It sold over 2 lakh copies. So, our Honorable Minister, with all these difficulties, Mr. Minister, the way we are holding out and managing our finances, I think our state is a glowing up example of fiscal management. I think we learned some lessons from how the state is managing. Good part of it is also to maintain the health of the citizens of our state. I see the effort that has gone to the street level, not even to the area, to the street level, how it has been done. A lot of credit should go to the Minister who is sitting here. Thank you, Mr. Minister. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My dear good friends, thanks a lot for hearing me out. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful, insightful session. CA Rajesh, Kumar.
Bit of our knowledge and experience to share among the members to prepare them towards the GST litigation which is going to grow up. This session is going to be in two parts. I'm not going to explain, I'm going to run through the various aspects which will be there in the process of GST litigation and hand over the dais to Venkataramani sir for further deliberation more on the practical side of it for the preparedness of chartered accountants to this GST litigation, especially towards the GST tribunal. The flow is going to be, briefly I'll be touching upon what will be the flow of litigation, which many of you may be aware, but still to run through it. The adjudication process and essentially some of the important points which we need to see. You might have handled it, but which you might have not seen it. I want to bring your attention towards some of the important points in this process of adjudication. Then certain aspects of the first appellate stage. Then briefly about the GST tribunal, the provisions and the related procedures. Further on, the various aspects of preparedness, starting from general aspect till the tribunal, will be also be covered in this session, subject to the availability of the time. In the GST litigation, there are two different flows we can consider. In any case, any notice which is subsequently going to be converted into an orders and subsequently appeal, any one of the issues involves a place of supply, then the route differs. If it does not involve a place of supply, then the flow is different. So there are two different flows which we need to be aware, because up to the first appellate stage, it will be similar or the same. But later on from the tribunal, the path changes, it deviates. If it is a issue not involving it, even any of the issues in the notice does not involve any place of supply, then the adjudication, that is basically AC, DC, JC, ADC, whoever is going to pass an order, appeal will be preferred before the first appellate authority. After that particular thing, the appeal will be filed before the state GST tribunal. Then it goes to the High Court, then to the Supreme Court. This is the flow with which the process goes. Whereas if it involves the place of supply, then it is little different. So up to the first appeal stage, it will be the same. But when it comes to the appeal to the tribunal, the appeal will go directly to the principal bench of tribunal, which will be located at New Delhi. So irrespective of the fact that we are located in Karnataka, in Bangalore, out of 10 issues which are raised in the notice, one of the issues, if it involves place of supply, the entire appeal has to be filed before the principal bench at New Delhi, and it is not going to be filed at the tribunal which will be located at Bangalore. So I think we need to be aware of this important aspect of it for us to understand that then from the principal bench, it goes directly to the Supreme Court, it doesn't go to the High Court. So this is what is a little of a change in this entire flow. If you ask me why did I take this entire thing in the beginning itself, just to repeat again, there is going to be a pre-show cause notice proceedings, then the show cause notice, then the order will be passed, then we are going to file an appeal by making appropriate pre-deposit, which is the essential criteria, Again, if the order is passed against, then we need to file an appeal to the tribunal. That appeal to the tribunal can be either to the state tribunal or the principal bench, depending upon the issue involved in the case. Later, the further things to High Court, to Supreme Court, or directly to Supreme Court. This is the flow which we need to understand as an overview of it. Next, generally, many of our professional friends who are not into a regular practice of GST would have handled generally a pre-show cause notice proceedings. Generally, it starts in the form of scrutiny notices, scrutiny of returns under section 61, where A70 10 will be issued, then we need to file a reply in 11, and the conclusion report in 12 will be issued. Most of the time, this A70 12 will not be issued. We are mostly engaged in this process. The another type of the proceeding which we generally get engaged is audit proceedings, section 65, where there will be a notice asking us to produce various documents, records which we'll produce, and they're going to raise an audit observation. We try to reply to the audit observations, then they're going to issue a final report. The third type of the proceedings which starts is intelligence based, where inspection, search and seizure proceedings will start. There, it will be much more rigorous. They will try to, that will be initiated either by the enforcement wing or by DGGI or by a preventive wing or by regular commissioner. It can be from any of these, fields. But however, there the entire objective of this process of this inquiry investigation is to collect the documents and evidences in support of their claims. So we need to be aware the entire process is not to settle or close the proceedings, it is more to collect the evidence and the documents against you to book a case. So all these things are going to ultimately lead to an issue of a notice, which is a show cause notice. So in this process, as a professional, our mindset is to try to establish we are right. As a general chartered accountant, when we go and stand before the authorities in any of these stages, we are more conscious about the mistakes what we have done rather than to try to see what authority the officer has, whether he is right in his proceedings, whether he is acting within the limits which he is empowered to act. These are certain things which we will be not looking into. What makes a difference of a general compliance practice to a pleading or a litigation practice is questioning the authority, the correctness, right, and the scope of the proceedings which are being initiated. Each of these proceedings has to be undertaken by a proper officer. Proper officer under one section cannot behave like a proper officer under a different section. So they have been empowered under a specific provision, under specific sections. When they have been given an authorization to carry out a scrutiny, they cannot extend the scrutiny proceedings to audit proceedings to call all records, or to investigation proceedings to come and give those and give the details, etc. So we need to be conscious about what proceedings we are handling so that they don't go beyond the scope, and we need to put our foot down at certain places, politely and firmly deny certain things which are being asked. These are something which I wanted to emphasize on the aspect of looking the litigation at a different perspective. Coming to the next aspect is adjudication. Adjudication starts with the issue of a show cause notice, then we filing a reply, then after the hearing, submission of documents, an order will be passed. These entire aspects are treated as adjudication proceedings. We need to be conscious of the fact that under the GST law, we are not undergoing a assessment procedure. We are undergoing an adjudication procedure. What is the essential difference? In an adjudication procedure, the quantification of a tax the basis of the quantification, the violation which has been alleged, or all should be in the notice itself. Whereas in assessment, all those things comes later. So, if any adjudication, the specifications are fixed at the time of issue of a show cause notice. So, what we need to address is only those specifications in the notice, because the order cannot go beyond the scope of the show cause notice. We need to be aware of this when we are looking at from the perspective of a litigation. There are certain pointers which have been given in the presentation. I think the presentation which is there in the material which is circulated is different from the presentation which is being presented here. This can be asked to the organizer, they will get it. You can use this as a checklist, in fact, where lot of points on how to look show cause notice are brought out. I may not be in a position to cover all of them, but you can just look at these points. Firstly, when any notice comes, we need to check the date, whether well it's in the period. Who is the officer who is issuing this notice? Whether he is acting within his jurisdiction. Jurisdiction includes territorial jurisdiction, his authoritative jurisdiction, whether he is empowered, cross-empowerment jurisdiction, or whether he is acting as a, is the same authority who has investigated and also doing an adjudication. So these questions of authority itself has to be looked into to question the primary aspect of the notice itself. Second thing, as to the various procedural aspects of a notice, there have been a number of High Court decisions which are said that if certain things are supposed to be done as per the procedure set out in the law, it has to be done in the same manner. If it is not done, then it is invalid. If the notice should be served on the portal along with DRC-01. If it is not done so, such issue of a notice is said to be improper. Though we need not get into, we as a chartered accountant generally try to look into the merits of the case without we looking into these technical aspects. So it's also important for us to look into these technical aspects as well. Further, there is a Karnataka High Court decision and many other High Court decisions, though there are also contrary decisions, wherein it says one show cause notice cannot cover a period more than one financial year, one tax period. So that means a separate notice should be issued for each of the periods. If it is not done so, then the validity of that is questioned. It also has a lot of repercussion, because merely by the fact that time limit is extended, if they issue one notice for the entire 5 year, they may invoke 74 and issue penalty at a higher values for the entire period of 5 years. On the other hand, if the notice is issued for the first 2 years, subsequent year the statement of notice, which is treated as a show cause notice, is deemed to be issued under section 73, not under 74. So those benefits or facilities are denied by issuing a one consolidated show cause notice. So hence, those aspects also to be looked into, whether the notice is covering more than one period or it is covering single tax periods. At the same time, while going through the show cause notice, we may have to run through facts, what has been noted down in the show cause notice, whether the facts of your case and what is noted down is actually correct, or is there any discrepancy. Similarly, what is the nature of activity which has been noted down in the notice vis-a-vis your factual activity, whether it's the same. The goods, what you being dealt by you vis-a-vis the goods which is being noted in the notice. Similarly, whether whatever has been stated as to the facts in the notice, is it merely a statement or is it supported by any evidence or documentary support? Is it a fact which is being stated with supporting documents, or merely being mentioned based on their assumption, has to be checked into. At the same time, we need to link the allegation, what has been told has been default by the taxpayer, is it supported by or linking it to a certain provision. They cannot simply say, you have not made a payment, so your credit is denied. They need to link that to which provisions is invoked to say that you are not eligible for the credit is very, very important for us to understand this. At the same time, if a tax is being demanded, they need to establish specifically whether there is a taxable activity has been carried out in the form of a notice is very important. We have to look at the paper, not with what discussion we and the officer had in the past. Similarly, for the taxability under the GST, levy, assessment and the collection, to ensure that all the three are there in the notice, we need to check the taxability which I explained. Then as far as the assessment is concerned, the appropriate valuation should be adopted, appropriate rate of tax. Appropriate, generally we see, they take that value from the income and adopt 18%. Why not 28%? So until unless they say, because the charging section requires the rate to be notified as per the notification. So they need to specify and identify the relevant entry in the rate notification to specify the taxability of a particular activity of a supply of goods or services under specific entry. Without establishing that, the notice is flawed. Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Vrindavan Beverage has set this principle very relevantly. So similarly, we need to see whether the time of supply is correct. And at the same time, when they say they take from the figures from the financial statements, they simply compute 18% and say divided by half and say CGST, SGST. But the transaction in entirety may be that of a interstate supply. If it's an interstate supply, the demand should have been an IGST. If the notice is demanding CGST and SGST, the entire demand should fail and they cannot change that in the order to IGST. So these are certain aspects. Same way if it's a case of a input tax credit, they need to, though the burden of proof as to the eligibility is on the taxpayer, first of all to bring in an evidence to say there has been a wrong availment is on the department. And under what provision the credit is incorrect, improper, irregular has to be established, without which such demands are not proper. So I gave you a lot of points. Again, all these points need to be checked for each of the points in the show cause notice. Generally nowadays the show cause notice will have 10 points, 15 points based on the audit report. So we need to make this check for each of the issues raised, because in some of the issues they might have said this, but may not have said this in all the issues. So it becomes important for us to have a look at these aspects in each of the points, and if there is something which is not done, then that becomes your ground to contest that particular issue in the notice. Okay? And next, having studied all those things, you make a notes, then we need to have a conference or a discussion with the client. You have only seen your perspective of the notice, your perspective of the facts, but we need to hear from the client their perspective of the case, the facts, then only we will be able to understand what exactly has happened. Then we get a real perspective. Then we get into drafting of the reply based on the discussion, then vet it through the client, client verification, their perusal, because we are acting as a representative of the taxpayer. It is not our reply. In fact, many occasions we do mention, do not file a reply to the client's notice in the letterhead of a chartered accountant. You are merely an authorized representative. It should be signed by the chartered accountant, signed by the client or the taxpayer, not by the chartered accountant. You are representing. In fact, Section 116, which talks about authorized representative, even a firm cannot be an authorized representative. It is a particular chartered accountant, the firm can be acting as an authorized representative. Okay? After having discussed with the client you need to compile the reply along with all the supporting documents which you want to refer to. At the same time, we need to be cautious that to what extent you need to supply the evidence and documents. If you supply beyond certain level, then that can give open to a new issue which can crop up at the appellate stage by virtue of Section 107 within bracket 11. So which the appellate authority can issue a fresh notice demanding taxes. So we need to be cautious what information to be given, to what extent to be given, whether it should be through a document or through a certificate Anything on the facts which you are introducing for the first time, it should be supported by a documentary evidence. Ensure that you file your written submission along with the compilation of a case laws and the statutory provision you want to highlight is coming out on the PH record. If it is not coming out on a PH record specifically, ensure that you go back and write a letter or a follow-up letter saying that we had appeared and submitted this. We request you to kindly take this on record and pass an appropriate orders, so that such letter will support you at a later point in time if something is not recorded in the order while passing the order. Then comes with the, as soon as you come out, it is expected that you update the client. You update the client with whatever the proceedings happen, whatever the discussion happened, any additional document sought for is submitted, whether it is well within the scope of the original show cause notice. You need to be clear that if they are asking in the adjudication, they cannot carry out an investigation. Adjudication is a post-investigation. Adjudication cannot be a process of investigation. They cannot find out or trying to take out something new which was not there in the show cause notice. Subsequently, if the order is passed, you need to follow up regularly whether the order is passed. Many a times the orders would have been passed which we would have not noticed, then the time limit to further file appeal would lapse. So it is important for us to look at what is happened for the order and whether any further course of action is required on this. So these are certain points on the adjudication aspect of it. Now coming into the first appeal stage, 107 is a section which deals with it. At that particular stage, the more important aspects which we need to note is the appeal needs to be filed within 3 months from the date when the order is communicated to you. There has been lot of litigation going on as to what is the date of communication, whether uploading of the order in the portal, sent through a mail, physical copy, which one is it? Many a times the authorities are simply posting it in the portal which would have not been seen by the taxpayer, whether it's a proper communication. There has been a divergent views by the courts. Few courts have said, no, if the show cause notice was sent, it was not seen. Order was also sent through portal only, it's not an effective communication. Appeal is from the date of communication. That means a knowledge of the recipient. So when you are filing an appeal, very important point which you need to note, the date of communication to be mentioned in the APL1 form. It should not be simply copy paste of the date of order uploaded. It is the date on which the taxpayer came to be known about it, and also in the facts of the statement of facts when you are putting in the grounds of appeal, the appeal memorandum, specifically putting across how did you come to know, and enclosing a supporting documents, how did you come to know, and that will actually save the time limit to cover up that aspect of it. So I think this is about 107. Here pre-deposit is a criteria where I think many of you are aware 10% is the first stage and further 10%. In addition to the accepted liability, if any amount is already accepted, then the entire amount has to be deposited. In addition to that, 10% of the disputed tax. If the tax plus interest plus penalty, only 10% of disputed tax. If only penalty is there, there is an amendment which is there still to be effective, then 10% of the penalty. So there is a subject maximum of 20 crore rupees which is there. There is a procedure which we need to adopt for making a pre-deposit. Even if DRC 03 is issued, then it has to be connected to against the order which is uploaded. Subsequently, if you succeed, you are entitled to claim a refund of that pre-deposit, and you are also entitled for the interest for the amount of pre-deposit which is required to be made statutorily. If no various orders are there in the law, if orders passed are not appealed against, then it would attain finality. So we need to appeal. You cannot go and try to say, no, we'll ask the officer to rectify the order. No, that is not the thing. You need to file an appeal. Rectification can only be on the mistakes apparent on record, cannot be for the change of view. I mean, change of the decision cannot be the matter of rectification. And if you do not file an appeal within 3 months plus further period of 1 month before the first appellate authority, then the order becomes final. There is no remedy available for you, because there is a lot of Supreme Court decisions which they said when the statute gives a mandate or the period within which the appeal can be condoned, the appeal cannot be condoned beyond that period even by the courts. However, in such a scenarios, we do challenge the entire proceedings itself before the High Court, saying that the entire proceedings without jurisdiction and the entire proceedings is non-est in law, and thereby quash it and go back to the original authority. Even as simple as ground as the show cause notice was not signed. Many a cases the show cause notices were not signed. Then they set aside the orders were not signed when it was uploaded. So these are the grounds on which they said the proceedings itself is invalid and gone back to the stage, and the things can be taken up. There are various, it is not only the demand orders, there are various orders under the GST law which are appealable. I have listed out many of the orders for your information, and also certain orders which are not appealable. It is not only taxpayer files appeal, even the department also files an appeal. But the time limit for them is 6 months plus 1 month, whereas for us it is 3 months plus 1 month. So if any order is passed by the authority in our favor, department is having a power to file an appeal against that order upon the direction by the commissioner. So again, in such a scenario, what is expected of you to look at various technical aspects. Many a times, department goes and try to find the grounds which were not a part of the show cause notice. Rather than trying to defend only the grounds given in the appeal, we need to go back to the show cause notice, whether the show cause notice was having such ground, what has been made as a basis in the grounds of appeal, and whether the merits are supported by the documents, any new document is introduced, those aspects needs to be looked into. After hearing, the appellate authority is going to pass an order. If the order is, it can confirm, modify, annul. As I was mentioning, the appellate authority can enhance the demand after giving an opportunity. They want to make a fresh demand, they can issue a show cause notice, provided it is well within the time limit prescribed under 73, 74, 74A now. Okay. Additional grounds which was on a facts you cannot introduce. Already facts available, you can add a new grounds at appellate stage also, but it should be part of appellate memorandum. If any grounds are not part of the appellate memorandum, it can be argued only with the permission of the appellate authority or the tribunal. There is a revisionary proceedings. Earlier in the sales tax, it was called as SMR. Now, here the time limit is 3 years from the date of passing of order. However, if any appeal order is appealed, then such orders cannot be taken in revision. If any, there are multiple issues. If one of the issues is not taken up in appeal, then they will have a time limit of 1 year after the passing of the appellate order, or 3 years from the original order, whichever is later, to take up this in a revision. So the matter will not attain finality till the time limit of this revision gets completed. Okay. I think there is a bar embargo on the department to file appeal in all the cases. This circular is issued only from the center. All the states have not adopted this. So in any cases where the center has passed an order, department cannot file an appeal against that order before the tribunal if the amount is more than 20 lakh, 1 crore, 2 crore. The monetary limit is there, and they have also given a mechanism how to compute this amount, and at the same time they have also said this restriction doesn't apply in certain cases like constitutional issue or striking down of a circular or a provision. They can still go in appeal even the amount is less than certain monetary limit. I think another 5 minutes I should be able to conclude on the aspect of GST tribunal, just quickly giving you the overview of the GST tribunal. There are various provisions which are dealing with the tribunal thing, starting from section 109 to 116. The important and relevant provisions for us as a practitioners to look at is 111, 112, 113. Other things are all the administrative thing, and 115, when you succeed on the appeal, the interest that you are going to get is set out in 115. These are the rules which are there, 110, 111, 112 and 113A and 113. These are various rules which will be relevant, and in addition, recently there has been a GSTAT procedure rules. This is not issued by the government, this is issued by the tribunal itself by virtue of a powers given to it under section 111. Okay, so here they are going to define what it has to do. In that particular thing, there are 15 different chapters dealing with various aspects containing 124 rules and 8 forms, different forms. I'll briefly talk about these rules. Firstly, rule 1 to 2 is generally a definition, as you know. 3 to 17 gives certain basic aspects including the powers, record keeping, internal affairs. The main thing which as a practitioners of this GST which we need to understand is from rule 18 to 37 and 41 to 52 is the important things which we need to know. And also 72 to 77 and certain aspects relating to affidavit at 78 and 80. I will explain these timelines. Basically, what we file appeal is 112.1. What the department files appeal is 112.3. So the time limit is, again, for us it is 3 months. For the department it is 6 months. Condonable period which was not there in the erstwhile law, which is introduced in the GST, is 3 months. In the earlier Central Excise Appellate Tribunal, there was no time limit for condoning the delay. But whereas in the GST, they have put an outer time limit of 3 months. This is a very important thing. One important aspect I want to emphasize is about the cross objection. What we generally understand as a cross objection is, if the department files an appeal, we will file a counter. That is what we are understanding as a cross objection. No. If there is any adverse finding or adverse order partially in the first appellate order, that is the Commissioner Appeals or the JC Appeals order, and you decided not to file appeal on that portion because you have got a substantial relief. But later on, if the department files appeal, if you do not file a cross objection, which is in the nature of cross appeal, then that extent of the findings against you will become final. You cannot contest that issue in the tribunal. So it is very important for us to file a cross objection on any findings given in the appellate order which you had not appealed against. We need to put up in the cross objection, and the time limit is 45 days from the date of you got a notice about the department filing appeal. And further condonable period of only 45 days, not 3 months. And if it is not done, that portion of the order which is against you will become final. That can act against you. So be very cautious about this. So, and the time limit, the working hours is going to be, for them it is 9:30 to 6:30, whereas for us 6 o'clock. For us as a court proceedings will happen from 10 to 1:30, sorry 10:30 to 1:30 and from 2:30 to 4:30, after which they will have their internal office working hours. So there are other listing matters. I personally feel these rule 12 and other certain rules may have to undergo changes, because this appears to be a copy paste from the court proceedings which are not supposed to be in the tribunal proceedings. We have to wait and see. After certain representations, these may get changed. The last point I want to cover and hand over the proceedings to Venkat sir is about the fees. For every 1 lakh of the tax dispute, it is 1,000 rupees, subject to maximum of 25,000 and a minimum of 5,000 rupees. It is very important for us to note any applications you file, any other type form of application, interlocutory, whatever it is, 5,000 is the minimum fees you need to pay. There is no fee for rectification of mistake application and the departmental appeal. One more important aspects to note, in case of a refund application related appeal, refund related appeal, the quantum of fee is not dependent upon the quantum of the refund amount. It would be maximum of 5,000 rupees only. These are certain things, and these are, I think with this I conclude. Venkat sir is going to take the further things. It went to certain PPTs, so at the end, if time permits, we can take up questions relating to all other topics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful, insightful session.